This earth is full of labor, packed with pain, throes of an endless birth coerce her still. The centuries end, the ages vainly pass, and yet the Godhead in her is not born.
Oh, this is packed. Why is this earth full of labor? Why is it packed with pain? Why are there throes of an endless birth that are still coercing her? What Sri Aurobindo is telling us here is so poignant, actually very sad, because earth is full of labor. There's no doubt. Nature is working towards the manifestation of something higher. But earth is also packed with pain. And she sees these throes, these pangs or spasms of endless birth that are coercing her, compelling her still. Semicolon. The centuries end, the ages vainly pass, and yet the Godhead in her is not born. So everything is summed up in that last line. We are human creatures born to die. The moment we are born, we begin to die. And therefore, we experience the earth being full of labor, being packed with pain. There's always pain. And there are throes. Throes are severe pangs, spasms, you could say, of an endless birth that are coercing her, compelling her still, compelling earth still. Why? Semicolon. The centuries are ending, and the ages are passing vainly in an unsuccessful manner, to no avail. And yet, the Godhead in her is not born. The divine being is not born. The supramental child is not born as yet.
The ancient mother faces all with joy, calls for the ardent pang, the grandiose thrill. For with pain and labor all creation comes.
Of course, he capitalizes the M for mother because he's speaking of the divine mother. And, mother was not very keen on the idea of Purusha and Prakriti. In fact,
Oh,
we were talking last night, Ranga and I. We had a Savitri session last night. And Ranga said that mother said, I don't like this Purusha Prakriti idea. She didn't want this concept of male and female. It was one to another. And she said, you ask Nolini, and he'll tell you what it means. Someone asked, what is Purusha Prakriti? Nolini said, if mother won't answer, I cannot answer. So, interesting story. Uh,
yeah.
uh, so we see that the ancient mother faces everything, but she faces everything with joy. There's no sorrow in her breast. She is the creatrix who calls for the ardent pang, even the grandiose thrill. And I think we've talked about grandiose before, that it does not mean,
No, but
okay,
I know what it means.
yeah, in our time, grandiose is not, it's a pejorative word. It's not a
Okay.
pleasant. But in Sri Aurobindo's time in England, grandiose meant immense,
So, yeah.
great.
Okay.
And then after that semicolon, after thrill, he says, for with pain and labor, all creation comes. Birth is a pain for many. Very few have a very simple, easy birth. Labor is on all of us. We all have to labor. But with that pain and labor, all creation comes. Marvelous line. Now, carry on because it's going to get more interesting.
This earth is full of the anguish of the gods. Ever they travail, driven by time's goad, and strive to work out the eternal will, and shape the life divine in mortal forms.
I got every word. Excellent. So we know the problem now. I got
Yes.
every word. Good. So, what is this anguish of the gods? It's this acute distress or suffering of the gods. And why is it? Because the gods travail, they labor, they work strenuously, they toil, and they are driven by this goad of time. We know what the goad is here.
I
Okay.
don't know what God is.
So there are two or three definitions that we can look at. They all are applicable. First of all, it's a long stick with a pointed end to move animals in the right direction.
Okay.
Secondly, it's a stimulus or a prodding of something. So it's an urging someone forward or to get in line as with a pointed stick. So the gods travail, they do this burdensome work, this toil, and they're driven by time's goad, the goad of time, because they have to work out the eternal will. And will is the pressure of a conscious force on nature. Sri Aurobindo tells us in Letters on Yoga. And he also says in The Life Divine, the energy that creates the world can be nothing else than a will. And will is only consciousness applying itself to a work and a result. So we notice that he capitalizes the W here. He wants us to understand that will. So these gods strive to work out the eternal will and shape the life divine in mortal forms. We know that the gods help us. People pray to the gods. They pray to Krishna, they pray to Shiva, they pray to Kali, they pray to Lakshmi, Saraswati. They pray to all the gods. Usually they pray for small things. Let my son graduate with a magna cum laude or something. let my husband recover from his illness, etc., etc. Let us have some food. We're starving. These are genuine prayers. The interesting thing, and I don't know if I told you this last week, this is a good story by Ranga, that his friend told him, whenever I have a problem, I send 100 rupees to mother, and the problem goes away. So Ranga says to him, what happens if it doesn't go away? He said, I send another 100 rupees. and we all laughed. And yet, what Shraddhalu told me was so beautiful. He said, in whatever way we appeal to her, she responds. Ah, we learn so much from each other. This is such a wonderful world.
Yeah.
Okay, now we did that, and you got it all, right? You understand it? That the gods are helping us, but they work hard. They're driven by time's goad. Time is pushing us to evolve. And although we say that the divine guides and does not goad, we have two words here. He guides but does not goad. The gods are driven by the goad of time. Why? Because they have to strive to work out the eternal will and shape the life divine in mortal forms. Now, I want to read to you just a few lines from the life divine. And I have to go every time at 5 minutes out now because everybody's been overlapping me. But there are two things here that are so important to me to share. First of all, in the life divine, he says, a life of Gnostic beings carrying the evolution to a higher supramental status might fitly be characterized as a divine life, for it would be a life in the divine, a life of the beginnings of a spiritual divine light and power and joy manifested in material nature. And now this is the one that for me is the creme de la creme.
Mhm.
The ascent to the divine life is the human journey, the work of works, the acceptable sacrifice. This alone is man's real business in the world and the justification of his existence, without which he would be only an insect crawling among other ephemeral insects on a speck of surface mud and water, which has managed to form itself amid the appalling immensities of the physical universe. Great humor, ironic humor, but the first part is so important. It's the ascent to the divine life is the human journey. It's the work of works. It's the acceptable sacrifice. And this alone is man's real business in the world and the justification of his existence. And shape the life divine in mortal forms. Now, carry on. A little bit more.
His will must be worked out in human breasts against the evil that rises from the gulfs, against the world's ignorance and its obstinate strength, against the stumblings of man's pervert will, against the deep folly of his human mind, against the blind reluctance of his heart.
Wow. Wow. His will must be worked out in human breasts. It's not going to be worked out in the animal or the bird or the fish. It has to be in human breasts because right now, even though we are transitional beings, we are the highest point in evolution. The gods are higher, but they're fixed. So
Yes.
we are the highest point. And this has to be worked out against the evil that rises from the gulfs. Could talk about that a long time, but very briefly, the evil forces are perversions of the truth by the ignorance. In any complete transformation, they must disappear and the truth behind them be delivered. Of course, he also says in Essays Divine and Human, in God's providence, there is no evil, but only good or its preparation. So we see that it has to be worked out against the world's ignorance and its obstinate strength. Obstinate, stubbornly adhering to one's purpose. This person is obstinate, won't move, inflexible attitude against the stumblings of man's pervert will. Here he uses the word pervert as an adjective to will. So it's a pervert will. It's a will that is turned away from the truth, from the right way, from truth to error. It's wicked, it's distorted. And then he has two more things. First of all, first he has the ignorance capitalized. Then he has the will. Now he has against the deep folly of his human mind, because the mind knows nothing. We talked about that extensively last week, and I know it bothered you a little bit. Against the blind reluctance of his heart. And that's an interesting thing, because very often the heart is disinclined towards evolution. It can be very, very happy where it is, in a relationship, in in pleasure, in joy, in silence. And so there is a blind reluctance also of his heart. Wow. So if you will read everything now, we can complete our evening, beginning with this earth.
This earth is full of labor, packed with pain. Throes of an endless birth coerce her still. The centuries end, the ages vainly pass, and yet the Godhead in her is not born. The ancient mother faces all with joy, calls for the ardent pang, the grandiose thrill. For with pain and labor all creation comes. This earth is full of the anguish of the gods. Ever they travail, driven by time's goad, and strive to work out the eternal will and shape the life divine in mortal forms. His will must be worked out in human breasts, against the evil that rises from the gulfs, against the world's ignorance and its obstinate strength, against the stumblings of man's pervert will, against the deep folly of his human mind, against the blind reluctance of his heart.
And we will continue next week with this extraordinary passage that Narad is telling us what has to happen. Namaste.
Canto.